Hey witches, welcome to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy, a magical living podcast for the busy witch. I'm Morgan, eclectic witch of almost 25 years, Avalon priestess, and busy witch. Here we'll talk all things witchy, from current metaphysical happenings to my busy witch tips and tricks, and everything in the in-between. This podcast is my personal journey, filled with my knowledge, opinions, and unique way of looking at the world. Join me as I weave the magical and the mundane in every episode. Hello witches, and welcome back to Busy, Gritty, Inked, and Witchy. I am Morgan, and today I am talking about Ancestor Magick. We are in spooky season. It's officially October. I'm so excited. I know that I am a witch 365 days of the year, but I feel like the month of October is just made for us witches. It is like catering to us. It makes us feel special, and it makes us feel amazing. I shop for all of my home and office decor during spooky season because it's just tailored for witches. But the veil between the worlds is thinning. So if you're starting to see shit out of the corner of your eye, it might be happening. Like there's stuff happening all the time. We here at the office, here at Ink Goddess Creations, we have, I don't know what it is. We have all seen him. We have named him George. He has spoken to some of us in the back in the warehouse, but he really likes the kitchen area in our office. But I came in one day before an ink spirit lesson and I could just smell cigar smoke. This was almost a month ago. So like somewhere in September, and the veil starts to thin, during the fall. But yeah, I could smell just little pockets of like cigar smoke here and there. And I'm like, oh, well, George must be amping up. But we've had doors shut and opened and lights on and off. And his favorite thing right now at the moment is messing with our Bluetooth speakers. It's just been a fun time here. So the veil between the worlds is definitely thinning. Contact with the other side is easier. And by the other side, I mean your guides, your ancestors, even your higher self, people who have passed, friends, loved ones, I mean anyone. So the veil between our world and the spirit realm is thinning, and it makes October a great month to practice Ancestor Magick. And that's what today's episode is going to be about. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about how you can practice Ancestor Magick or honoring your ancestors. So ancestor veneration, which is just honoring your ancestors, it's done year round by many cultures. Some leave altars up all year, and they'll make offerings as frequently as daily to their ancestors. And it is just a way of life for many cultures. So honoring ancestors as a practice spans the entire globe and goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Now, ancestors definitely can mean bloodline or familial ancestors, okay? Those who came before you in a blood-related sense. So grandparents, great-grandparents, great aunts, uncles, cousins, those that are blood related to you, they are your roots. They are where you came from. They helped mold who you are today. Now, we all have shit ancestors somewhere in our lineage. Okay, so let's just throw that out there now. We all have shit ancestors somewhere. Okay, to think that anyone's family line escaped any type of war or slavery or persecution or like a do what you need to do for survival method of living is just naive. To think that anyone's bloodline was able to kind of go around that and be 100% pure and only added to the greater good of the world. That is naive. Okay, we all have shit ancestors somewhere in our lineage. But that doesn't mean you have to honor those ancestors or even connect with them, okay? Just because they are in your line does not mean that you have to hold them up on this pedestal of greatness, okay? Just like your current relatives, I think we all have like a weird uncle, right? A little weird. You just kind of keep your distance at family reunions. It doesn't mean you have to be like, oh, he's my uncle. He's the most greatest person in the entire world. No, he's weird. Okay? So you can admit that. You can admit that. You don't have to hold anyone from your lineage up on a pedestal just because they are from your past, all right? Now, let's say you're adopted or you can't trace back your ancestry. Ancestors can also be cultural or spiritual, okay? So generally speaking, you will know at least a basic mix of your ethnicity, like you'll know basically where you came from if you don't know countries specifically, especially white people. Like we tend to be an Anglo-Saxon mix of European mush for a lot of us. That is what we are. And I don't know specifically. Like one of my grandmothers was Irish, so I know I have Irish in us. I don't really know a lot about the rest of it. So, and I know we have British in us, so I may not know the exact country where my ancestors came from, but I know, all right, I have European blood in me. So ancestors can be cultural. They can also be spiritual. Okay. Those who have helped pave the way for how you were raised or practices that you even have now, or those who you look up to for guidance on your spiritual path. These can also be ancestors. These are also people that you can honor. So that I definitely want to make that clear, that it does not have to be blood relatives. Your ancestors don't have to be, like, those aren't the people that if you want to set up an altar, they don't have to be blood relatives, okay? They can also, I recently heard this on a podcast that I was listening to, a remembrance altar. That is just an altar of people who in your life who have passed. They can be ancestors, but they can be friends as well. So I thought that was a beautiful thing. So you don't have to just honor your ancestors, your bloodline ancestors. This can be cultural people, this could be spiritual people, and this could be friends. This could be anyone who had an impact on your life in a positive way, okay? So while this veil is thin, how do you connect with them? Okay. Or any time of the year, how do you connect with them? Your connection to your ancestors can be easy or it can be elaborate. All right. So the easiest way, whether you do big or small, is an ancestor altar. Okay. That is setting up a place where you will go and pay your respects to your ancestors, those who have passed, your cultural ones, your spiritual ones, whoever has helped make you who the person you are today. Now, possible items for an ancestor altar include pictures, of course, heirlooms such as jewelry, clothing, military awards, if you inherited your grandmother's statue collection. I mean, anything that ties them, that it was passed down to you or ties them to you directly, like it was one of their items. Okay, you could definitely add those to your altar. An offering such as incense, your ancestors' favorite flower, or food or drink. A lot of cultures use booze. Yeah. They use booze. It's what's going to coax someone out from the comfy, cozy spirit realm that they're in. They're going to be like, is that my favorite drink you're mixing? Why, yes, I will come show up at your altar. What can I do for you? So these are some different things you can use for offerings. Any type of representation or any type of messengers that can travel between the worlds are also a great thing to place on your ancestor altar. For example, skulls, skull carvings, anything like that are seen as being able to go through the veil. Moths, especially the deadhead moth. I always say deadhead moth, or is it deathhead moth? See, I can't, my last name is Moss, so moth for me is just, my brain just says no. Death head hawk moth, I believe, is the correct terminology for it. Hummingbirds also are seen as messengers between the worlds, as are ravens. So if you wanted to create this big elaborate altar with pictures of your past loved ones and some of their heirlooms and an offering, you can definitely put any of these on there in pictures or statue form. All right. Candles, always a great thing to light a candle for your ancestor, especially when the veil is thin. A lot of different cultures believe that you're lighting kind of like a beacon, like you're lighting that candle and you're saying, hey, come here, like come towards the candle. This is the altar set for you. The different color candles can also mean different things. For example, brown represents family. Purple can represent wisdom. Yellow, open communication. And of course, black for protection. You can also add gemstones. I'm going to go over gemstones and herbs, which kind of will give your your ancestor altar a witchy feel. Gemstones can include bloodstone. That is a gemstone of blood lineage. So bloodstone's a great one. A shungite is a stone of the ancients. It's super old. It's also highly grounding, highly protective, but shungite can help you connect to your ancestors. So will petrified wood. Again, another stone of the ancients, and it's full of wisdom. It's full of connecting to your past and your ancestors. And lapis lazuli was often used, especially I think in Egypt, for the afterlife. So it's a stone of the afterlife. So if you want to put any of those on your altar, then that helps energetically set your altar up for communicating or connecting with those who have passed. And then as far as herbs, which again can make a great offering. You can have a little bowl of herbs on your ancestor altar. And if you tailor the herbs to communicating with your ancestors or herbs of connection with ancestors, then that just boosts its energy. So I like to use elderflower and chrysanthemum are two for me that really work well. Marigold or calendula are used in, especially you'll see it in Mexican Dias de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. There's marigolds everywhere. Rose hips are really good for connecting with ancestors. Wormwood, dandelion, and broom as an actual herb, not the thing that you clean with. There isn't a broom herb. All of those are good for calling in spirits. I used to, back in the day when I would do ghost hunting, I was the, resident witch on the team of our paranormal investigators. And whenever we would go out to a cemetery or something, I always had a bag of broom, and I would put a little bit in my hand and blow on it into the cemetery or onto the grave or wherever we were trying to make contact. I would put a little bit in my hand and blow it in that direction to try and open the doorway between the two worlds. Mugwort is also great for visions, and it's also good for protection if you're going to try and travel in between the worlds. And then rosemary is good for remembrance, and again, for protection. So those are some gemstones and herbs you can add to your ancestor altar, make it a little bit more witchy. Yeah, so that's your ancestor altar. You can put it anywhere. You can put it up for the month of October. You can put it up year round. There's no right or wrong way to have an ancestor altar or a remembrance altar if you want to include friends who have passed as well. So yeah, ancestor altar, one of the easiest ways. If you're looking for a magical community where you can just be yourself, check out my Ink Spirit Coven. The Coven is an online learning circle for eclectic witches who want to learn new witchcraft practices and how to easily incorporate magic into their daily lives, all while being supported on their personal spiritual journey. And you'll have me as your magical mentor, sharing my knowledge, answering questions, and facilitating the online community. Head to inkspirit.com to learn more and join. And if unique witchcraft supplies made by witches for witches is just what you need, head to my store, inkgoddesscreations.com, to see what we have to enhance your magical practice. We also have the Ink Goddess Creations box, a monthly subscription of magic mail filled with exclusive items that fit a magical theme. Head to the site to see this month's theme and sneak peeks. Now, for me personally, I'm a doer. So, of course, I have altars everywhere. I have altars all over my house. I have altars that look like altars. I have altars that don't look like altars. I have altars for specific deities. I have altars everywhere, okay? But when it comes to connecting with anything, my higher self, my deities, my guides, my ancestors, any of it. I am a practice person. I would rather do things actively to connect or to raise energy or to perform magic or whatever. I would rather do things actively than sit in front of an altar and just be. Okay, that's me personally. So some different practices that automatically connect you to your ancestors and open up that pathway for communication. My favorite is making ancestors recipes. That is my favorite. I do have a cookbook that includes some of both of my grandmother's recipes. And then my two grandmothers have passed. They also contain like some of my mom's recipes and Colin's mom's recipes and stuff. So it's something that I will be passing down, through the ages as well. But that's my favorite thing to do is to, if I really feel like I need to connect with someone, I will pull out the cookbook and try and make one of their recipes and just really open myself to them while I'm making it and pour my love and gratitude into whatever it is that I'm making. That's one of my favorite ways. You can also wear a clothing item of theirs to connect with them and with their energy. I absolutely love this. So of course there's definitely visiting graves. You can also just go for a walk and open up that pathway of communication between them, like state, I'm opening up a communication pathway between me and this person. And this can be done either at a grave or go for a walk and then just talk to them. Just talk to them. Share what's going on in your life. Be silent to listen for messages from them or anything like that. I think one of my favorite things that this reminds me of is when it was in between junior year and senior year. So, we're talking like we're 17 years old. A friend of ours was killed in a car accident, and it was absolutely devastating because this guy had no enemies. He was the nicest person on the face of the earth. At a very low point in my life, he was one of the only people that still talked to me. And so news of his death hit me very hard. And so whenever I go home, I have not visited home in quite a while. But for years, for probably a decade after I moved away, whenever I would go home, I would always have to make a trip out to his grave. And I can remember sitting out there one day and just talking to him, And I remember saying, I feel so dumb. Like I'm sitting here talking to you, but you've been gone for years. We're talking decades now. And I'm just sitting here basically talking to a grave. This is just absolute crazy. And of course, out of nowhere comes a huge gust of wind. And at that moment, I'm like, all right, you got me. You hear me. I get it. Okay. Thank you. And that's one of the biggest signs for me. If you're ever visiting a grave or if you're ever talking to ancestors and, pay attention to what's going on around you. You get those big gusts of wind. That's them. A bird comes out of nowhere and kind of flutters up to you, a butterfly, anything like that. It's them. All right. So just talk to them. They're there. Talk to them and be open for them to talk to you back however they can. You're not always going to get a full conversation with someone back. You know what I mean? You're going to get a gust of wind or you're going to get a butterfly or you're going to get something like that. All right. Sharing stories about them with others helps bring them back to life. That is what immortality is having your story shared over and over and over again. That is how you keep our past ones alive. So tell someone about your grandma, your grandpa, whoever. Share the stories with your kids. Share the stories with loved ones, with friends. And that keeps their memory alive and then keeps them alive as well and gives them immortality. You can definitely put on their favorite music or TV show in your house, just playing in the back. Because we're at the age now where some of your grandparents, or people even closer to you, maybe a parent, they might have had its favorite TV show. So you could just watch that and you can connect with them, especially if it was something that you watched with them as you were growing up, or put on their favorite music in your house and just play it and really sit there and connect. And again, open yourself to them communicating back with you. Around Halloween or Samhain, a lot of people host what's called a dumb supper. And it's a silent dinner where you actually set a place at the table for your past loved ones. A lot of people will set one plate and kind of designate it as, okay, whoever has passed can come join us for dinner. Or some people will set a place for everyone. I mean, it depends on how big you want this to be. And generally speaking, a dumb supper, it's called a dumb supper, dumb as in mute, like not speaking, no sound. What you do is you're silent for the whole supper. And sometimes I think if you want to explore dumb suppers, definitely go online, search it up, because there's a couple of different ways you can do them. Some of them, you ding a bell at the beginning of them and then at the end of them to signify like, okay, you all can come in and then you all can go. But there's definitely different ways to do them. And it's just a way of asking your ancestors or those who have passed, your past loved ones, to join you at the dinner table for a night. And like I said, it's usually done Halloween or even the day after Halloween. So if that's something that interests you, definitely dive down more into it by doing your own research. All right, that's actually what I have for you all today. I do want to end with a fun story. So I have never been one to really dive down into Ancestor Magick. It's just only been something I've been interested in within the last few years. And now we're actually doing an Ancestor Magick box. It was for the month of October. And so by the time this goes out and airs, I think the ship day is the next day on October 5th. So but I'm sure we will probably still have some available. If you want to head to our website, you can get a whole box of fun stuff to help you practice Ancestor Magick. Anyway, it's with the research that went into designing that box and putting that subscription box together for everyone that I really realized a few things about my own life. So I have always been, you can call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever. I've never wanted to spit in a tube and send it off to some company that I swear is going to do amazing things with it and promises to never do horrible things with my DNA, and then have it come back to me and tell me where I'm from, like where my bloodline lies, okay? Until I'm doing all of this research. I still have not done it yet, okay? But I see it in my future. I see finally having my DNA test done. Because in doing research for Ancestor Magick for the last couple of years, but more specifically for this box, I realized, so my grandmother passed years ago, my grandmother on my dad's side. And I know that she was from Pennsylvania. I do remember that growing up. And I cannot remember exactly what I was researching, but Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs came up. And Pennsylvania Dutch hex magic is also it's a type of folk magic where it incorporates verses of the Bible for protection, healing, things like that. It's something that I have a book on my bookshelf at home called Hex Magic. And I got it one time, and I don't know why I got it. But I'm diving down into just a little bit of this, and I realized that one of these Pennsylvania Dutch hex signs that I'm seeing is actually in my grandmother's kitchen, still to this day, because my grandfather is still alive. I grew up staring at that symbol every time I did dishes, because they don't have a dishwasher. He still doesn't have a dishwasher, I don't think. So I had to hand wash dishes when I was staying there. So that's when it made me realize, because my mom, because this is my dad's side of the family, but my mom always contended that, I had witch blood from both sides of the family, witch or healer blood from both sides of the family. And I always was like, that's a very interesting thing to say, because my grandparents very Methodist, very Christian. And so, finding out that, and then I'm kind of like, wait a minute, Grandma was from Pennsylvania. So I don't know, but I think it would be pretty damn cool to find out. Especially, you know, I don't know how DNA tests. I know that they'll be able to tell me like, oh, I'm like 12% British or whatever. But I think it's time for me to maybe dive down a little bit more into my past with this realization that there might be a correlation between my grandma and Pennsylvania Dutch hex magic. Because I mean, I was looking through a bunch of the different common symbols that were done in Pennsylvania Dutch magic, and I was like, yeah, that one's in their kitchen. And then there were other ones where I was like, I've seen these around the house as well. So who knows, right? So that's what I have for you all today. It is October. It is spooky month. I do have a lot of stuff planned for this month, so I'm super excited. And I definitely want to thank all of you for listening, for giving me a platform to share my knowledge. Thank you for being here, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.